guys, how's it going? Welcome back and welcome to the review on the JJRC H26 Quadcopter. This was sent to me courtesy of Lightake.com. Check them out. They got lots of cool products and a ton of quads. Alright, so anyways, what you're going to get in the box, of course, is your quadcopter, which will require some assembly. Please see my video on how to assemble the JJRC H26. You will get your radio, a 2-cell 1200 milliamp LiPo battery. Hey, you might want to order some spares, especially if you're out having fun during the day in the park. Anyways, you're also going to get a manual that's in Chinese and English. Really good English translation, by the way. You're going to get a couple of spare propellers, 1A and 1B. And these are big props. It's a big quad too. Like, these are 8-inch long props. You also get a USB charger. Now, the charge time they say is about 2 hours and 5 minutes. Nope, it's 2 hours and 50 minutes, so very close to 3 hours to recharge this battery. It's really crazy. But, hey, if you got a hobby-grade charger, you can charge the battery a little quicker. You're also going to get a screwdriver, and you will get a little baggie of screws, by the way, to assemble a quad with. Okay, now, I want to pick on the bad stuff first. First off, the LED lighting. I really don't care for it. It's like a Christmas show, right? Ding-a-ling-ling, all different colors, and all four of them are all the exact same LEDs, which makes it very difficult for night flying for me, and it will for many others, I'm sure. So you really need like solid lit up, like, you know, one color here and another color, you know, at the front that's different, so you can get better nighttime orientation. The only thing they really give you for orientation is this flashing red and blue light to keep an eye on, but it's still hard to judge it when you got all these other things blinking in your eyeballs. So that part really does bother me a little bit. It's not a major ding, but it's a little ding, okay? The next ding I'm going to give this thing is on the screws that come with it. All the screws are exactly the same, which is no big deal for assembling the quad with, but it does become a bit of a problem for the props, because you're not getting a lot of that screw into the prop. Now and into the shaft. You're getting some of it into the shaft. And I found I was, you know, this was actually my first blade I did, and I was working it back and forth, you know, and it was starting to sink in more. And I'm like, oh, good, we got some progress here, right? And these are self-tapping machine screws, and what happened was I snugged her up, and snap, there goes the head off the screw. But I did get 3/4 of the screw in there, and of course where it broke off was on the outside portion of the prop. So there is no way this prop is coming off of this quad until I remove the bottom gear, which is not that hard to do, pull it out, and then I can, you know, cut away at the plastic and get that screw back out of there. And, you know, I got tons of spare screws, but I think I'm going to have to mod this thing as far as the shafts go, and actually thread the shafts with a fine thread and get some fine threaded screws so I can change my blades in and out as much as I want and never have to worry about breaking another screw again. So I did take it easier on the other three, of course, and they are all holding in very secure, but they are only in about halfway. And these are very poor quality screws for trying to screw in the metal with, because what's happening too is the threads, as we're working it back and forth to get 3/4 of it in there, it actually chewed the thread off the screw. But there is still thread that's going to hang into the plastic, because that's very thick. So, I mean, it is going to go on secure, don't get me wrong here, but it is a very, very bad design for screws for holding these props on. So, really, I think that needs to be improved. Now, the final bad point. Now, this is something that I've watched a lot of videos on this JJRC. Not all of them, because I don't have enough time to do that. I did watch a fair number of review videos on this, as well as, you know, people, you know, just general chit-chat about it and so on. Now, the motors all have heat sinks, which is great, but the noise is not the motors, okay? Everybody thinks it's the motors. It's not the motors. It's the gear mesh is too tight between your main gear and your pinion on the motor, and that is why you're getting this excessive noise. This is also why your motors require heat sinks, because they're getting way too hot. Even with the heat sinks, it does help with a little bit more longevity out of the motor, but not that much, okay? The JJRC needs to address this concern, because it's a big concern, because what happens is when you get such a tight mesh like this, it takes a lot of throttle to get enough RPM to get this bird off the ground. but it's also surging the entire electrical system badly, which also I found out that even after a 7-minute flight, this battery comes out pretty toasty. Okay, and we all know that heat and lipos is not a good mixture. A little bit of heat's not a bad thing, but a lot of heat can be bad. Now, I've had no puffing on this thing yet, but I'm hoping that what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this thing about another 10 flights, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully nothing cooks. What I'm hoping for is that mesh will wear itself in and loosen up, because this one here is actually not too bad. And this one's not too bad, but they still need to be a little bit looser on the mesh. But this one and this one is really bad, okay? So you may end up going through a motor or two before the mesh loosens itself up with wearing into the motor pinion, because it is a metal pinion against a plastic, well, we'll call it a spur, okay? And so that should hopefully wear itself in. If not, and if it doesn't do that, then what I'll probably have to do is take it out and throw the gear into my drill press and take some 2000 grit sandpaper and shave some of the tips off the teeth to get some distance away from the gear to loosen it up for me, so that it's going to be a lot more power efficient, longer runtime, cooler battery when it comes out, and of course increase the longevity of the motor life. Okay, and this is not the only quad on the market by JJRC, I'm sure, and probably a couple other companies out there that have this issue going on. And it's a bit of a design flaw that way. Now, I'm not saying this stuff to discourage you from buying this quadcopter. I'm just pointing out what my findings are and my opinions and what I know is actually causing this problem here. Okay? And there are solutions for it. Okay? So, anyway, the quad itself is very ruggedly built. Okay? It's very strong, very stable frame I find on this thing. I'm sure it'll take a couple of crashes, not major crashes, because you know how the story goes, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Well, it also means the bigger they are, the easier they break on a hard impact because of weight. Okay, so, you know, I'm sure it will take some bounces, you know, but I wouldn't try and go and purposely crash this thing just to find out how much it would take. Unless, of course, you want to do that and let us know. I'm not going to. It is a very fast machine, even in the low cyclics. Okay, it has 3 levels of dual rates or cyclics, and on level 1, it does have quite the good pitch to it. You know, considering it's an aerial quad generally, right? But this is still a non-camera one. You can get the camera, it plugs right in. The hookups are already here, so you can just plug and go, which is nice. And there's not much difference in price between the camera and the non-camera version, so you can kind of pick whichever one you want. You can also use your own camera on here if you can figure out a way to mount it on there. But anyways, so it does have a good sturdy airframe to it, very sturdy landing gear, you know, and they do stay in there even though they're like basically pressure fit in. They stay in there quite well, so I'm happy with that. Agility of the quad is actually pretty good, and flipping the quad, it flips on a dime. It's such a tight flip. I've flown and owned a lot of quadcopters over the years, and I got to tell you, this is the tightest flipper yet when it comes to flipping a quad. It is tight, and you know, because I've had a lot of quads where you flip them and they, you know, come halfway down to earth before they recover, right? This thing is like instant. It's just like flip and it's there, you know. It's really good. Really nice and tight. So that's good. Now, other than that, great little machine. I really like it. You know, and I knew a few things ahead of time, you know, about the quad, which was good. And I'm happy that I can bring the information to you guys to confirm to you guys too what this noise is really all about. So you know, it's not the motors. You know, it's the mesh. Okay, now the motors are brushed. They will make a certain percentage of noise, but no brushed motor makes this kind of noise. I'm sorry, that's just not a happening thing, okay? So the motors are only responsible for maybe 20%, if that, okay? The rest of it, it's all the gear mesh. So, and like I said, there are fixes we can do for that. Now with the radio, I want to talk to you about the radio and the features of the radio. Okay, it's 2.4 gigahertz. You do have a nice little digital display here, so you can see where your trims are set. You'll know when you're recording video, taking snapshots. Now this is your snapshot and video button. It's a two-way rocker, okay, on each side. And the left side is for your video and photo. The right side is your flipping and your rates, okay? So and you got 1, 2, and 3, and then back to 1 again. This button here, okay, this controls your auto return feature, which I haven't tried out, but I can pretty much guarantee it doesn't work anyway that well, because this is not GPS controlled, okay? If it was GPS controlled, it would work, but it's not. So it's kind of more of a novelty thing, like all the other quads I've shown you guys on my channel in the past. The auto return is kind of it has to be in a specific position to really actually come back to you or toward you. And of course you've got your headless mode on this switch too. This switch here, even though it's a clicker, in the book they've actually put a sticker over this, and that kind of got me, and I pulled the sticker back, and underneath all it says is A key fixed high, whatever that's supposed to mean, and that's all it says, and it doesn't discuss it anywhere else. So I have no idea, but it doesn't seem to do anything anyway, so we're all good. So, and your speeds, by the way, is 40%, 70%, and 100%, okay, as far as your speeds go. And that's pretty much about what covers that stuff. So overall, really good quadcopter. It is under $100. I'm not going to give you an exact price because prices change all the time, but it is well under $100. And it is a monster of a quad. And I brought my WL Toys 212 quad out here to give you a little bit of a size comparison here too. Okay, so yeah, she's a beast. And you can feel that when you're flying this machine. Okay, it is a very beastie machine. When you're flying it, actually there's a connection between a pilot and his or her aircraft, that they can feel that connection, and you can feel you're flying a big quad when you're flying this machine, okay? And this one is actually one of my favorite smaller quads. I've had this thing for quite a long time now, and it has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of flights on it. It's on its 3rd battery, but everything else on this is bone stock original. I've not cooked a motor, a gear, nothing. I'm still running the original blades that were pre-installed from the factory. And this uses coreless brushed motors, so which are a lot different than a regular brushed motor. But anyways, so recommendations. Do I recommend this even though it has these flaws? Yes, I do. Why? Because it is a very good flyer. I think with a little bit of tweaking, it can become awesome, and you can cure the mesh problem. Hopefully it self-cures, and you only have to pop a motor or two to cure it with wear and tear. Otherwise, like I said, you can take it to the drill press, 2000 grit paper, and just very carefully, take the edges off those teeth, and that should be enough to widen the mesh enough that it spins a lot freer, because that is still excessively too tight. So, but you can tell which ones are the tightest ones too when you just initially hit the throttle. And it takes a lot of throttle to get this thing up in the air, and that's because of the gear mesh. Not so much the size of the quad and the weight, which it's not a very heavy quad. It's this gear mesh is so tight that it's got to get the motors to spin up to get things going fast enough to get her in the air. And that's why you're going to find you're going to need a little bit more throttle than you normally should need. Like I said, there are fixes and cures for this, okay? So it's not a bad quad, okay? It's still a thumbs up quad in my opinion. It's still a decent machine. It flies nice, like I said. I really like it. Stay tuned for more video on this one. My next video actually is going to be bending and twisting this thing for all it's worth in the sky, and seeing how well this thing can really get up and dance. Because you guys know I have to do it. I gotta know, right? And I like doing that sort of stuff for you guys with anything, whether it's a land vehicle or something that flies. And I have a lot of fun doing that. And but anyways, so those of you who want your star ratings on this one, because I know for some of you it's very important, this is a 3 3/4 out of 5. I would have loved to give it a 4 out of 5. I really would have. But you know, we've got a few things, you know, that are concerns, okay, and so that's where we're sitting, is the 3 3/4 out of 5, and I think that's a fair assessment for this, and recommendation, yes, to still, you know, go ahead and buy it. You know, I mean, it's a hell of a deal for under $100, even the way it sits, you know, and it still flies good right out of the box, even though it does have, you know, a few little quirks about it. It's still a really nice machine, you know, and I know I'm going to be keeping it around for a while, a long while in fact, and I'm going to be buying some spare parts. I'm going to be experimenting too with the gear mesh thing as I'm working these ones in, hopefully, and hopefully that's all it needs. Otherwise I will be experimenting with shaving down the teeth a little bit and seeing how that fixes it, because it is a fixed mesh, okay, that's the thing. And I know a lot of you have probably seen videos on this before. Yes, there are actual little blue heat sinks on each and every motor to help keep them cooler, which helps longevity of lifetime of the motor too. So anyways, don't go away. There is flying footage both day and night for you to watch on this review, and you can let me know what you guys think and your thoughts and opinions as well. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao, ciao.
Oh, it's like a Christmas tree. The aliens are coming to get you now, Dave. Watch out, the FAA don't come and shoot you down. I'm more worried about you shooting it down or Sharon. Cool. That's pretty wicked, eh?